ABFL News at 6:30. 2. This is ABFL News at 6:30. 2.
I'm Bethany Rose Dumbledore.
And I'm Lila Jo Granger.
So, Lila, how was your day today?
My day has been so exciting. My kids are growing up so fast.
I know, my Joey, he's already 2 and I can't believe it.
Okay, back to the show.
Okay, back to the show. Okay. Today on the show, we'll be talking about some very exciting news, like an interview with George Washington himself.
Now for our first story.
Yes, our first story.
The Battle of Bunker Hill took place on June 17th. It happened on the Charlestown, Pennsylvania, on the north side of Boston Harbor. While the result was a victory for the British, they suffered a very large amount of losses, over 800 wounded and 226 killed, including a notably large amount of officers. They'll fire you to see the whites of their eyes! Boom, boom, boom!
I was at my BFF Eliza's farm last night, and she cooked some porridge, and she said it was the best. And I'm all like, OMG, Eliza's porridge isn't even good. She said she used these special oats or something, and I mean they were terrible. She needs to use the oats that I use because they're just better.
Use olden time oats. They're just better.
This is ABFL News at 6:30. 2.
I'm Mary Lou Weasley.
And I'm Helga Jane Longbottom. So Mary, how's your weaving going?
It's going quite swimmingly. How are your crops? Are they cropping?
They sure are cropping.
By the way, we have to go back to Bethany and Lila for today's latest weather.
This is Bethany and Lila, and we're here with your weather.
It's hailing.
It's hailing. It's really hailing.
It's bad.
There's tons of hail
They're
all
really
over
big
it.
too. They're baseball size, if you know what a baseball is. Well, it's too rough out here. I would not recommend coming out here.
Don't come outside.
So, signing off because it's so rough. Bye.
Bye.
This is ABFL News at 6:30.
2. We're gonna get some special inside footage of the World Cup croquet finalists.
Man, oh man, that's an intense game out there.
It sure is, Billy. I'm Jay.
And that's your sports news.
Is switching to chuck wagon tea a good idea? Did the Charleston family like their vacation to Bunker Hill? Oh wait, they didn't. But does tea taste bad after it's been sitting left alone for 3 days? Why, yes it does. But not chuck wagon tea. Chuck wagon tea tastes good all the time. It's so simple even a native can make it.
American protests led to Parliament's repeal of the Townsend duties, and the colonists showed their displeasure with the remaining tax by drinking smuggled tea. Parliament then passed the Tea Act, which gave the English East India Company a chance to avoid bankruptcy by granting a monopoly on the importation of tea into the colonies. The Dartmouth and 2 other ships arrived in Boston Harbor with a cargo of tea. The Tea Act requires that the tax be collected 20 days after ship's arrival, making December 16th the deadline. At one of their gatherings, someone suggested that they return the tea, and the tea agents refused to do so. That evening, the ship owner was to depart from Boston. With that news, Samuel Adams gave the signal to the group, and 50 men disguised themselves as Indians. 342 chests were split open and thrown into the harbor.
Today we have George Washington here with us. So George, how was it being the Commander-in-Chief?
Well, Helga, it is certainly not the easiest job. We all have our rough times, but we are pulling through.
I'm glad to hear it, George. How do you expect the war to end?
My troops will pull through. They are the toughest men I've ever known, so I think we will win.
That is wonderful, George. Thank you. Back to you, Bethany.
I am an attractive pilgrim sitting in my garden tending my carrots. You gallop by on your horse. You see my ankles show from underneath my skirt. You're so drawn in by it that you run your horse right into a tree. Your horse is damaged now, and you can't afford to buy a new one. So, switch to Allstate.
This is ABFL News at 6:30. 2. Today we have a report on the Boston Massacre.
The Boston Massacre.
The Boston Massacre, which is also known as the Boston Riot,
The Boston Riot.
was an incident where British troops killed 5 protesters.
5.
On March 5th, outside of the Custom House, Edward Garsh called out incidents to Captain Lieutenant John Goldfinch. Goldfinch ignored these and Garsh left. A couple hours later, Garsh returned with more protesters and began throwing rocks, snowballs, and other hard items at the British soldiers. As the evening went on, the crowd grew bigger and more threatening. Over 50 Bostonians
Bostonians.
had gathered in the crowd. Then somebody called out, "Fire!" And the British soldiers began shooting, killing 5 Bostonians. The soldiers were put on trial after the massacre. No lawyer wanted to defend them until John Adams decided to defend them because he believed in a fair trial. 2 privates were charged with manslaughter, and they had their thumbs branded.
Branded.
Well, that's it.
This is Bethany.
And Lila.
Have a great day. Wait, is it recording?
Yeah. You look stupid. Oh, wait.
Hey.
Wait. Who's recording right now? Oh, God. Okay, your hair is getting in my mouth. Ow, my neck!
Oh!
This is ABFL News. This is ABFL News at 6:32.
I'm Bethany Rose Dumbledore.
And I am Lila. This is ABFL News at 6:32.
I was not looking at the camera at all, I'm sorry.
This is ABFL News.
I was looking
We're talking about... This is ABFL News at 6:32.
I am Mary Lou Weasley.
And I'm Helga Jane Longbottom. So, Mary, how's your weaving going?
Oh, it is going quite swimmingly. How are your crops?
How are you girls?
This is ABFL News at 6:32.
I am Mary Lou Weasley.
And I'm Helga Jane Longbottom. So, Mary, how's your weaving going?
Oh, it's going quite swimmingly. Are your crops cropping?
They're cropping.
Are you girls?
This is ABFL News at 6:32.
I am Mary Lou Weasley.
And I'm Helga Jane Longbottom. So, Mary, how's your weaving going?
Oh, it's going quite swimmingly. How are your crops? Are they cropping?
They are sure cropping.
This is ABFL News at 6:32.
You're not gonna say 2?
We should go 2.
2.
Today we have George Washington here with us. So, George,
Stop! Amherst.
I'm an attractive pilgrim sitting in my garden tending my carrots. You gallop by on your horse. You see my ankle showing from underneath my skirt. You run your horse into a tree because you're so drunk.